Hey, welcome to the CannabiNews Network. This is the News Roll-Up. I'm your host, Sam Humede. These are my friends, artist Henrik Larsson. We know him as Henrik the Swede. My good friend Erica Adamson, writer, and what else do you do?
Blogger. You can find me at eabraid.youtube.com.
Excellent. And this is Lisa Kaler from the 420 Times, the wonderful, enthused, our lady on the street, getting all the best interviews in town. And of course, last but not least, the famous Alex Mandelberg, comedian extraordinaire, funniest guy I know, or at least the funniest guy willing to come on my show. So we were just watching a video about the Oregon State Troopers and how they are differentiating between the new law in Washington, the legalization of marijuana, recreational use of marijuana. And you were just watching that just now. Let's cut away to it. Check it out.
Washington voters have passed Initiative 502, and beginning December 6th, it is not a violation of Washington state law for adults over 21 years old to possess up to an ounce of marijuana or 16 ounces of solid marijuana-infused product like cookies or 72 ounces of infused liquid like oil, all for personal use. The initiative establishes a one-year period for the state of Washington to develop rules and a licensing system for the production and sale of marijuana. While legal in the state of Washington, beginning on December 6th, Oregon law has not changed with regard to marijuana possession, distribution, or manufacturing. It's important, though, to understand that under Oregon law, possession of less than 1 ounce of marijuana is classified as a violation. It is not a criminal offense, and people cannot be arrested or jailed for the possession of less than 1 ounce of marijuana. Possession of less than 1 ounce of marijuana has been a low law enforcement priority for 35 years in Portland, and this will not change due to the new Washington law. What is not a low law enforcement priority is driving under the influence. DUI remains a high priority for the Portland Police Bureau. Here are some important questions and answers about the Oregon impact of the new Washington law. Yes, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program allows for cardholders to possess certain amounts of marijuana. It does not dictate where cardholders can get it, and there are no changes to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program because of Washington I-502. No, possession of less than 1 ounce of marijuana is an Oregon violation, and you could be subject to a citation similar to a traffic ticket. No, while Portland police do not prioritize enforcing citations of less than an ounce of marijuana, smoking pot in public places is strictly enforced. Don't do it. Even under the new law in Washington, you are not allowed to smoke marijuana in public places. Washington is developing rules and a licensing system for the production and sale of marijuana, which may eventually lead to the existence of cafes or businesses where smoking pot is allowed. Until then, if you must consume pot, then do so in the privacy of a residence. Unless you are operating a vehicle, bicycles included, you cannot be cited for the consumption of marijuana. If an officer believes you're driving under the influence of a controlled substance, they will conduct a field sobriety test and may consult with a drug recognition expert. If officers establish probable cause, they will bring you to a precinct and ask your permission to draw your blood for testing. If officers have reason to believe you're under the influence of a controlled substance, they can get a search warrant for a blood draw from a judge. In a serious injury crash, if law enforcement suspects that the driver is impaired by drugs or alcohol, officers will apply for a search warrant to draw and test the driver's blood. It's important to know that driving under the influence is a criminal offense in Oregon, and those driving under the influence of marijuana or other drugs can be arrested and jailed for DUI drugs. While DUI alcohol is generally when a driver's blood alcohol content is 0.08 or more, there is not the same threshold for marijuana or other drugs. The threshold for DUI drugs is impaired to a perceptible degree. Get a designated driver, take public transit, or plan to stay the night in Washington. Yes, but you can still get a DUI drugs while riding a bicycle. Marijuana is still a Schedule I drug under federal law, and marijuana possession and sale remains illegal under federal law. The Portland Police Bureau cannot predict or control the enforcement activities of federal authorities. Much like existing fireworks laws, what is legal in Washington is not legal in Oregon. In other words, if it goes high in the air or it gets you high, you should probably use it in the evergreen state.
So, what do you guys think? Like, Oregon's got it pretty tough here. They've got a state that recreational use is okay, and if you live 10 minutes from that border, it's not. And they're not so happy. Despite they have decriminalized marijuana in possession in Oregon, it's not legalized per se.
The one thing that kind of worries me about it is the whole DUI thing.
Yeah.
Because, what you consider to be intoxicated and what you consider to be just your normal everyday
Right.
sort of medicated self, at some point or another, can vary. So it's not a great science that they have yet for really determining whether or not someone's intoxicated enough to drive. There's millions of people on the road every day on plenty of prescription pills. So really,
Police said it best. People on these shouldn't drive.
The other thing is that if you really think about it, if that's really their concern, there's already like thousands of people on the road getting stoned and driving now. Nothing's changing.
Exactly.
It's all about responsibility and rational behavior.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they address that though, because the law has always at least stated that they cannot just simply willy-nilly say, I believe you're under the influence, and thusly test someone. They do have to visually be able to see someone and say, you appear to be impaired.
Yeah.
Now, are there those who take advantage of that law? Yes, absolutely, of course. But the law itself as it's written is not the problem necessarily there. It's certain individuals who are abusing that power.
Officer, I'm just happy.
If you're swerving on the road, and you're speeding or you're hot dogging it, which I don't know anybody who's smoked and gotten and been able to do that. Are they going to be hot dogging it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to be more alert, generally speaking.
Shit.
Yeah, because you're high. You're going to be
you're going to be extra careful.
Yeah.
Because
You know
you're
what I
high.
mean? Because of that.
But
Make some judgment.
They've proven that stoned drivers actually drive better. They're less accident prone. This is like this is like some serious.
I saw that was on
serious.
They did it on Discovery Channel. They were testing people the way different drugs affected different people in the same situations. One of my favorite ones. The unfortunate downside of one of the ones for stoners was they did have one where there was a burning building test, and they tested everyone sober, and they tested everyone. The stone person performed very well under stress, so well in fact that in a real fire they probably would have burned up and died, but they were able to react very calm under pressure.
They're used to the smoke.
Well, marijuana definitely puts you at ease, but it's just so unfortunate that in Oregon you can technically smoke weed, but hey, it's still legal on the federal level. So if we want to charge you on that level, we can still do that.
The Obama administration just came out against that, saying they're going to try to find a way to overturn the voter initiative, I-502 in Washington and the other one in Colorado.
Yeah.
And the federal government is going to overturn recreational use. This is clearly one of those things where the state's rights has overstepped its boundaries.
But you know what they're going to do? They're going to go and say, well, the UN, we signed in 1961 some kind of international drug policy. So we have to follow the UN, which means, well, we gave up the Constitution and all of that stuff, So either way, they're kind of bleeped,
Right.
Isn't it? Because it says so much about Colorado and Washington, what's going on.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it normalizes
it is.
all
It
this.
is.
This is medical marijuana, by the way. If you're wondering where all this weed came from behind me, and I only use weed because we're talking about the legalization of weed. This is actually medical grade cannabis, which is a wildly different thing. And most of you have been to my store, you know what this is versus the stuff you find on the street, which is what's pretty much going to be sold in stores in Washington, Colorado.
And think about it, if you opened up a stand-up comedy club there, bring the smoke back into the room, you know, just like you can do that right now. That would generate so much, and you get tourism and all that stuff. Got to get on that.
Well, one of the things I was really surprised at when I was in Washington, because I was lucky enough that I was on tour there literally a week after the election had happened. Yeah. Everyone had just found out, and I was up there, and about 2 or 3 of my shows were actually in the suburbs.
Yeah.
So not in Seattle, not in where it was wildly popular, but where they were actually surprised at how popular it was. And when we were there, I was actually surprised to be hanging out outside of a club, smoking weed with the owner of said club and a couple of over 60 people had come to the show, about 5 or 6 of them rolling up, and these guys weren't smoking the backyard boogie my dad smoked until the 1990s. They were smoking medicinal grade.
Cool.
Pretty good for anything that we had found up there. I was actually very surprised at how accepting of the culture they were, and when I did ask a few of them about it, I was surprised at the amount that were going, oh yeah, no, tax it. We'd be happy to pay the taxes. The money goes to the state.
They're going to regret those words. Because if you read the law now, it's taxed.
We're talking about Oregon, the state that does not have sales tax.
No, we're talking about
Washington.
Washington?
Oregon doesn't have sales.
Hey, I have an idea.
Oregon, that would be interesting.
But Washington, one second, Washington wants to tax it every step of the way. The cultivators have to charge 25% tax. 25% tax on the cultivators.
That's quite a bit.
25% tax to the distributor, 25% tax to the 75% before it even reaches the patient. Then there's sales tax, and then there's this, that, and the other thing.
But you think of the employment opportunities outside.
It's impossible. There's so many taxes. This is exactly what we've all feared.
Yeah.
They're going to make it so expensive that the only people that can afford to do it are going to be the major corporations who are going to step in and be like, you know what? The only way we can afford the tax. We can grow millions of acres of weed for this property and afford a tax. Yeah, I can't do it.
No.
You couldn't. None of the people here that bring this medical grade product could ever pay those kinds of taxes.
Because they don't have that understanding. That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's no understanding or no education here.
No,
these ones already burned.
There we go.
Hey, man.
One of the things that I like about the law, especially, and that they were talking about in the video that you showed us way before, is the fact that they are opening this up to tourism. They are making this a tourist attraction. They're trying to draw people to the state for this. Okay. They're not treating it like the dirty little secret, like, oh we legalized it. Like, yeah, we did. You want to come here and enjoy it? You're allowed to. Perfectly fine. I know it's weird that the whole first year
I don't know if that was necessarily in the spirit of the law, though. I think the spirit of the law was to decriminalize and legalize it for personal use in your own home.
I think it was to build the economy, ultimately. I think that states are starting to catch on to the fact that it is a great economical value to make weed legal. It can be, if it's done the right way. Right. And it just so happens that it's Colorado and Washington, states that we didn't expect to necessarily.
Well, Washington, I think people expected. I think Colorado was the bigger surprise for people because Colorado was. I mean, it's usually existed as a swing state. However, lately it's kind of lean red. We know, there's a very religious movement there. A lot of gun carriers. Not exactly what you would expect to be one of the first states to legalize. Use.
I mean, the thing is that it just a year though, and that's the pitfall, because it's like a year. It feels like people might, in their enthusiasm, not really acclimatize completely as where it's gonna land eventually. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like people
where you're from. I mean, people walking down the street smoking joints. Openly.
No shit. In my country, man, in Sweden, right, I would be considered a drug addict, right? It's
if
like
you were seen publicly smoking.
Yeah, really? Yeah. It's like if they see me now, it's like, oh shit, he's really gone far deeper. Yeah, exactly. Like, look at this. It's a tragedy.
Numbers, though. What's happened to Amsterdam's
It's
tourism.
They've put away with it.
Yeah, the mayor allowed open the doors again. The mayor banished that law. Tourists are welcome back and
was it killing tourism?
It completely destroyed tourism.
I went, what? The hookers are not enough. I'm sorry. That's never been enough. Vegas learned that. Yeah. That's why they landed up a lot.
I'm sure Lil Wayne stopped going. That was his favorite place to go because he said that in the documentary. That was his favorite. Amsterdam was his favorite place to go because we.
When I was a teenager and I did my whole backpacking Europe thing, it was like I expected to spend 5 days in Amsterdam. I think like a week and a half later, I'm like, I think I need to get on a train and experience other parts of Europe now. But
absolutely,
it is definitely a place. And not just because of that, it's also a wonderful, beautiful place. A lot of history, a lot of fun to walk around.
Yeah.
But I got stuck there for a while.
I just wanted to say one thing. Copenhagen too. That's a place you guys in America don't really know, but there's a place in Copenhagen called Christiania, and they kind of Christiania.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, now they kind of shut it down and stuff, but it's still, it's a good place to go. So I just want to.
What do they do there?
Smoke a lot of weed. And it's just it's like if you're gonna go up to that outpost the area where I'm from, that's the place to be. So
I gotta check this place out.
Tourists.
Next time you go home, I'm taking a camera, bringing my crew, and we're going with you. This sounds like heaven. I may never come back.
Yeah, I mean, a little kind of Rick Steves.
No, he's for civil rights. That's his big thing.
Yeah.
So anything related to civil rights. He's going to be, for. And
he's like a cool cat.
We did a story with him, and I love that quote that he said something about, and I won't per se, but it was something like, I'm one of the only celebrities, that will come out that has the balls to stand out.
Yeah, man, he's a good guy.
And say something.
And he really does quality art too. Like his TV shows is like shit. It's so highbrow, and it's like.
But it leads right into this latest film that was just released 2 days ago or something online.
What film?
Breaking the Taboo.
About?
It's all about ending the drug war.
Okay.
And Bill Clinton's on there. Just tons of people and a lot of presidents.
The drug war's been a disaster.
It's a nightmare.
It's been an absolute disaster. We have a segment with Gabe Green about the synthetic drugs, the K2 and bath salts, and they're actually very different. Check out the bubble here. We'll go to that interview with Sarah Diesel and Gabe Green. A lot of interesting information there. But listen, that's all the time we have for this video. Thanks for watching. Check us out. Click on the bubble above us. It's the CannabiNews Network. This is the news roll-up. I'm your host, Sam Hamid. These are my friends. Go burn one. Join us for the conversation next time. Woo!